You'll hear. There we go. All right. So welcome everybody to Introduction to Grant Writing. And as I always like to tell people, if you could keep yourself muted, but if you have any questions, feel free to either put them in chat or unmute and ask a question. I will try to pause and ask if you have any questions. Or if you really want, you can hold your questions to the end. I will stop the recording at the end, and then we can spend as much time as people want chatting or asking questions. So with that, let's get started. So writing a grant, I think for some people who have never done this, can really seem like a daunting journey, but we are going to break down the steps and really make it all possible. And so let's get going. So on the agenda today, we're going to do some brief introductions. We're going to talk about the different sections of a proposal and the supporting materials that you might find. And I just want to let you know right off the bat that there are a lot of different types of grants. Pretty much every funder is going to ask for something specific. So I can't, be specific to every single grant. So I am giving you really a general overview of grant writing, what you're more than likely going to see in a grant proposal. But like I said, each one just might be a smidge different. They might use slightly different vocabulary. We'll go over that. And also, if you're going to do this is really geared to private funding. If you are going to write a government grant, pretty much figure, many more pages, just basically what I'm giving you, but more in depth for government grants. Also, I would recommend going to grants.gov and looking at the videos that they provide, because government grants really are, they just take a lot more effort. I would also recommend some government grant writing classes if that's the direction you want to head. And if so, let me know and I can steer you to some really good government grant writing classes. So again, after today, I am hoping that you will be able to all describe what should be included in a standard grant proposal to, again, a private foundation, identify a few best practices in proposal writing, be able to summarize the proposal process, and have confidence to get started. Discuss, and then finally, we'll also discuss the grant timeline handout that I included. And oh dear. Okay, well, hi. Hi, Veronica. Yes, I'm glad you got on though. It is another virtual class, but I'm glad to see you. So, and we just got started, so you're good. All right. All right, if you wouldn't mind just putting your name into the chat and any questions that you may have. And also, if you wouldn't mind telling me whether you are new to grant writing or if you've got some experience with grant writing. All right, and Veronica would like some more information on writing government grants. Okay, I will get that to you. So yeah, so just introduce yourself in chat. Some of you, I think, probably know each other from previous workshops. And briefly, again, my name's Katie Edson. I am the nonprofit librarian for the Pikes Peak Library District, and my job is to give people in our community the information they need to do good. And I teach workshops, I provide resources, I will do one-on-one appointments with you. Basically, whatever type of help you need when it comes to nonprofits in the Pikes Peak region, I am here to help you out. So let's get going. All right, new to grant writing also, perfect. You guys are all in the right spot, super. And Taryn, you're new to grant writing too, excellent. I want you guys all to be successful, which is why I give you again as much information as possible. So, all right, moving on. I love this quote. A proposal is like a contract, and funders will expect you to live up to your promises. Super important to always think about this as you are writing your grant proposal, because what you are proposing is an investment to your funder, right? And you want to be able to provide the best return to their investment. So think of it as a contract with them. You are charged with finding the best ideas and solutions to accomplish your mission, whether that might be ending childhood hunger here in Colorado Springs, or maybe preserving wildlife around the globe. For a funder, rather than setting up their own program, they are looking to us, right? They're looking to the nonprofits that they can partner with to meet their goals and to fulfill their mission. They are looking for organizations they can trust with their resources. So it is up to you and your organization to demonstrate that you can be trusted. It's all about making your case for support. Think of the proposal as your opportunity to make your case. You're going to emphasize your organizational history and background, track records and results of accomplishments, your reputation, your leadership, your funding and internal capacity. So as we go through each section of the proposal, keep this theme in mind. How strong a case are you making? If you were a funder, would you invest in your organization? Really important to think about. So the statement of need is the beginning. This is where you're going to answer the big why question, as in, why is your project necessary? The statement of need helps set the stage for what your project will do. So next, these are the 4 components of your statement of need. We're looking at the description, the geography, the population, and facts. And I know this is like the major no-no of PowerPoint presentations, is putting tons of words on a slide, but I promise you, I am going to send you the slides. And so you will have time to be able to go back through it all and read it all over again. So that's why I put it on there. It's really for your information. So first of all, I've got, of course, a worksheet for you on this, and it's a worksheet to help you organize your ideas around some basic questions, which are, what is the problem your project will address? So that's the description. What's at the heart of your statement? Who is affected by the problem and how? So that we're talking about the geography, so that's region, and also population. So we're talking demographic factors of your population. And then, of course, what facts and statistics can be used to substantiate the problem and the impact on the affected population. So that's where you're going to support your argument with the specifics. And that could be real life stories, that could be quotes, but that could also be specific statistics. Remember, if your statement of need describes your organization's funding, staffing, or equipment needs, you need to start again. Really keep focus on the needs of the people and the issues you serve. Remember, you're convincing the funder. So now we're heading into the project description, and this is the story of your program. I always tell people you don't have to be a great writer to write a grant proposal, but if you are a good storyteller, you can craft an excellent grant proposal, because it's really a narrative that you are weaving about your organization and the projects and the people you are serving. So the project description, though, this is the main narrative about your project and how it will accomplish your goals. You are telling a story about what will happen when you apply your expertise to the need you've identified in your community. Like chapters of a book, the solution you present here flows from your statement of need. And that was what we were just talking about on the previous slide. The project description is going to answer questions like, what is it? Who's going to benefit? Where is it going to take place? When will it begin? How long will it take? What are the expected outcomes? How will it be evaluated? How will it be sustained after the current funding cycle? Lots of questions. This is the biggest part. And we'll look in more detail at the different parts of the project description on the next slide. So there are 5 main components. And as I mentioned before, this is the longest section of your proposal. Funders may have their own requirements, which I mentioned previously, for what they want. The order of the components may vary, and the funder may use different language. They might say outcomes instead of objectives. Rule of thumb, though, is always follow the guidelines set by the funder. So this section, again, this is where you will discuss how you will exactly address the issues that are addressed in your statement of need. Usually you will start off this section with a statement including the project goals and objectives. Things like, is this project already being addressed? If so, what are you going to do differently? This section should clearly describe the who, the what, the where, the when, and the why of your strategy. As an example, when you're talking about how your plan is going to be implemented, who is going to do the work? Where's the work going to happen? You should be able to include a timeline or step-by-step plan showing exactly how the plan is going to be completed. Don't forget to include collaborations with other agencies, because funders really, really love to see that. So I have a slide for each of these sections. And so we're going to go over outcomes, methods, staffing, evaluation, and sustainability one by one. Any questions so far? All right. Okay, another slide with a ton of writing. I always hate when I see this, but because I'm not going to go into detail what SMART means, besides saying it's specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. Programs have to have measurable results, specific things that will happen as a result of your project. Outcomes should not be confused with goals. Goals are broad, general statements of what you'll achieve. Outcomes are important because they outline your operating plan. They demonstrate a match with the funder's outcomes and illustrate how you will measure your program's success. And of course, right, I've got an outcomes worksheet for you. Again, so you can brainstorm through your outcomes. Pay particular attention to the difference between methods and outcomes. Methods are how you are going to get something done, right? Outcomes are what will happen as a result of those methods. You want to make sure that your outcomes reflect the result, not the process to get there. So for example, if we're talking about a goal might be stated as our after-school program will help children read at grade level, right? That's a broad general goal. If we rephrase that as an outcome, we might say something much more specific. We might say something along the lines of at least 25 out of the 30 children participating in our after-school reading program will read at grade level by the end of the school year. They will also pass a grade level reading proficiency test that is approved by the local school district, right? So we're specific, it's measurable, it's attainable, it's relevant, and it's time-based, right? So that's the difference between a goal and a measurable outcome. All right, next we'll talk about methods. So that was, right, that was outcomes. Now methods, how can you achieve your outcomes, right? You can think of the methods section as answering the questions such as, what are the specific tasks? Why is this the best way to achieve your outcomes? Who's responsible for each task? What resources do you need? Who are the participants and where do they come from? When will these activities occur and over what time period, right? Again, participants, time period, resources, tasks, and who are going to do the tasks. So as you can see, different than outcomes, but again, another really important section. Now on to staffing. This part of the project description is where you will describe the responsibilities and expertise of the staff and administration associated with your project. Project staffing will have likely come up in your methods section, right? Because who's going to do the tasks? But here in this section, you'll devote a little more attention to the qualifications and who is doing what. And of course, I have a staffing worksheet for you. So you're going to keep close attention and you're going to add into this section your paid staff. So that could be like your project director or a coordinator. So you might say the senior coordinator will recruit the tutors, and that's going to be 25% of a full-time employee position. You might also you would probably include volunteers, administration, do you have an admin assistant, consultants? Technically, yeah, they're not staff or employees, but they still play a crucial role. You might, in my examples, you might have your reading instructor, your steering committee. Whatever it is, you need to keep track of your staffing and how much time they are working on your project. So I've worked with a number of groups, and some are way more way more ahead of the game than others. So, and I go into this in my project budgets class, but your volunteers are worth money. And that is something that you're going to have to track, and you're going to have to put into your project budgets. So you need to keep track of how much time your volunteers are working. And an easy spreadsheet where each member puts in how much time they're working on towards that specific project is an easy way to capture that. Again, a group I worked with that was in Manitou Springs, they had Google Sheets that they kept, and all their volunteers had access, and their volunteers would keep track of their time. And then everybody could see how much time. And when it came time for the grant writer to write up the staffing section, it was really easy for them to grab that data and put it in. I worked with another group, and they said, "What do you mean our volunteers are worth time?" I said, "Well, they are." And so they had to go back and figure out how many volunteers they have and how much time each volunteer gave. And it slowed down their grant writing process because they hadn't been keeping track. So everybody is important that is involved in your project. Okay, moving on. With evaluation and sustainability. With this part, you're telling the funder how they can determine whether or not the program has been a success. In the end, evaluation is a tool to determine the effectiveness of your program, allowing you and others to learn from your experience and improving your worksheet over improving your programs over time. And of course, I have a worksheet for this, so you can brainstorm this out. But you're working on this part. You're describing the evaluation plan that you have for your project, and it's just so important to understand the sustainability plan and how to present that in your narrative. So, how do you figure out evaluation and sustainability? Well, there's two different types of evaluation and sustainability. So this is so you've got qualitative and quantitative. And you're working on how to tell that you have been successful. And this part, it's not important just for the funders, but it's really important for you to know how to measure success and what that means to you. So these two types, qualitative and quantitative, you'll need to use either or both to describe what information you'll collect, how you'll collect it, how you'll analyze the data. So either might be appropriate for you depending on the nature of the project and what your outcomes are. So qualitative, though, this is the part where you might use questionnaires or surveys. You're looking to form a picture of success from multiple perspectives. Quantitative, that is the hard facts, right? Those are statistics. Those are test scores. How many participants? Those are also a really important type of analyzing your success. And, with this section, you're telling the funder how they can determine whether or not the program has been a success. In the end, evaluation is a tool to determine the effectiveness of your programs, which allow you and others to learn from your experience and improve your programs over time. So again, that worksheet I have for you. And sustainability. Grant funding is finite, right? It's got a start and an end. It builds capacity, though, which means it contributes to the future self-sufficiency of your organization by expanding services that it might generate. It may attract other funders in the future. Remember, you don't want to be that fly-by-night project. New organizations, right? I've talked about this before, are generally riskier ventures for funders. So you need to demonstrate that you have a plan for achieving sustainability over time. Do you plan on continuing the project in the future? What other types of funding are you planning on pursuing? Funders generally like to see that organizations have a diverse array of funding sources, which will foster stability. So be clear and be brief. Really, this doesn't have to be a long section. So this last section, this is where you're telling your organization's history in your proposal, but you don't want to be too wordy. Make your organization stand out. So you could use bullet points in this section, but you're talking about your history, your origin story, your mission, right? Clearly state the mission of your organization and operations and expertise. Briefly describe your organization's other programs and expertise, including successes. The staff, list the size and the composition of both your paid staff and volunteers. With your board, discuss the size and the structure of your board. The audience, write briefly about the people who your organization serves, how many are served, and why they rely on your organization. And then any additional information as well. Okay, anybody have any questions on that? And now I haven't been super specific about like how long each section is to be, and that's on purpose because again, each proposal is going to ask for something a little bit different, and it again depends on the funder. I'm putting like generalities in here for you. So next, project budgets. So I have a worksheet on this, but I also am going to talk about this in one slide. I have another class coming up that I spend, an hour and a half talking about just this one slide. So this is the really, really brief part about project budgets. So this is the section on what you'd like to, what should be added in. So funders see the budget though as really a crucial tool in evaluating the credibility of your organization. I will tell you that many people read the executive summary and then flip to the budgets, and they will see if your budget is clear and it makes sense and there's no errors in it, then maybe they'll read your whole proposal. But, and even when I've been a grant reviewer, I go through, I often do that. I will flip to the budgets and I will see if it makes sense. So it's also important to remember, just like any other part of this, it's up to the funder. Budgets are going to come in a variety of formats, so you just need to make sure to use whatever format your funder prefers. I always joke and say, like, if the funder wants you to print it on pink paper, you're going to print it on pink paper. You do whatever they ask, because they may be reading 50 or 100 proposals, and you want yours to be in the format that is easiest for them to read, to get the information out that they need. So it's a project budget is basically broken down into 3 sections. You've got your expense, your income, and then well, I shouldn't even say that. There's a lot to your project budget, but the big part is your expense and your income. You're going to have your personnel and non-personnel information. You're going to have direct and indirect costs. And in your non-personnel section, so that could include consultants, computer equipment, telephone, internet, printing, travel. Your direct costs, that is the section of the budget that is everything that is directly related to your project. Your project would not be able to succeed without these particular items. And so that could be staff, that could be, you know, I don't know, you need tablets to use for testing in your reading program. Indirect cost, that's, you know, like overhead or supporting services. Remember, you're going to need a list of all the paid staff. You're going to need the salary and the or wages. You're going to need information on fringe benefits, taxes. So you're going to need a lot of information. If you have a finance person in your nonprofit, you're going to need to communicate with them and get that information from them. Any questions about that? Okay. Again, I've got a whole class on that. So we're getting to the proposal conclusion. We're not done yet, but we're getting to the conclusion. This is where you're going to tie your proposal together while creating a sense of urgency for your program. Include your vision for the future and the long-term impact of your work. Go ahead in this part and add some emotion. You could recognize the funder here. You know, you could say, with your funds, we can, you know, we're going to be able to change the community for the better. However, you really want to pull at their heartstrings at this part. You're also answering the big so what question. If you don't get funding, what's going to happen, right? So now, this is kind of funny. Here we are, the executive summary, and I am saying on this slide, this is the most important section. It is a snapshot of your proposal, and it's actually the first thing your funder's going to see. And even though it's the first section of your proposal, it's generally written last. And I think you'll find that it's easier to write the summary once you've finished the rest of the proposal. So again, this is the first thing they're going to see. Is it compelling? This is the hook that will entice the grant reviewer to continue on to the whole proposal. it should be able to stand alone as a one-page like mini proposal. So think to yourself as you read it, does it give you a clear understanding of the project? Do you want to learn more? Does it make a strong and measurable impression? Does it highlight the project outcomes? Does it specify the request? I hate it when I read an executive summary and it doesn't even tell me how much money they're looking for, right? It needs to be a well-crafted one-page summary. So maybe, again, this is all generalities, but maybe 1 or 2 paragraphs for your problem statement, another paragraph or 2 to describe your project, a paragraph explaining the amount of money needed, and a paragraph explaining your organization and expertise. So your section should be the problem, the solution, the funding requirements, and the organization and expertise. I really love a well-crafted executive summary. It just, it gives me, again, as the reader, a sense of what I'm looking for. And it's also giving me a sense of whether or not I think that this is going to be a good project and should I bother reading through it. Let's see, so supporting materials. So there's going to be a few things that are going to be asked for, and more than likely it's going to be an operating budget, a board list, biography of key staff. You're going to have some financial documents that are going to be asked for. Some will ask for an audit. There's a couple different types of audits that are generally required. So you're going to need to make sure you find out from the funder exactly what kind of audit is required. You're going to have to include that IRS letter of determination showing that you are a 501c3 nonprofit. Or if you have a fiscal sponsor, their letter of determination will be in there. And of course, any other supporting material that the funder is requiring of you. So when you look at a typical grant, you're going to see maybe a nice cover letter. Not always, right? And in the proposal, maybe a title page. Well, I would definitely put a title page. A table of contents can be nice if the proposal is more than 5 pages long. I recommend having a name for your project so that reviewers can easily follow along, right? As you are talking about your project, page after page after page, don't have some long, complicated name. Have a name that the reviewer can easily remember and recognize and follow along with. Don't get fancy with binders or folders. You know, clip or staple the proposal, maybe have the appendix separately, place it all together, and send it off if that's the way you are doing it, right? You might be applying for a grant that is web-based. You might be applying for a grant using the Colorado Common Grant application. If you are using any web-based grant proposal portal, then make sure you are following the exact character requirements. You don't want to have your carefully crafted narrative cut off because you didn't pay attention to the character requirements. Don't use jargon. Maybe your grant reviewer is not familiar with your particular expertise, and they may not understand the wording, make sure that it's easy for your grant reviewer to follow along. Spell out acronyms on each new page or for each new question. Again, you're making it as easy as possible for your grant reviewer. I hate it when I can't remember what a particular acronym is, and I have to flip back many pages in order to find what the acronym stands for. So those are just a few suggestions. All right, you've made it to the end. Take screenshots of your submission. Also, don't wait until the last minute. Servers could go down. Technological glitches happen. Take screenshots. Take screenshots when you submit it. The library submitted a grant, and they submitted it and everybody else was trying to submit it at the same time, and the server crashed. But we had taken screenshots that showed the timestamp, and so we were able to prove that yes, indeed, we attempted to submit our grant on time, but it was on them because their server went down. You just never know what's going to happen. Review before you submit it. Have as many people as possible review your proposal just to make sure there are no typos or errors. I will tell you, I was reviewing some grant proposals, and one was for it was a roof on a historical building. The grant was to get a roof on this historical building that was dilapidated. And they used the wrong century. So the house the historical building was built in like 1915. And they kept talking about the wrong century. And so I caught that right away. And it just made me think that they didn't know what they were talking about when they were writing this grant, and it made it less believable. Why should I fund a grant when they had such a major or glaring error? So have people review it. After you submit the proposal, keep in mind that it can often take months from when you submit your proposal to when you receive the check. It depends on the size of the board and how often they meet. Either way, whether you ultimately receive the grant or not, it's not the end of the process. Cultivating a relationship is a key piece of grant seeking success. If you get the grant, the funder is now your partner, and it is your responsibility to keep them informed about progress, both in any grant reports that they require and looping them in if you reach a milestone or celebrate a success. If, however, you don't receive the grant, don't lose heart and don't neglect the relationship. It's not personal. If possible, ask for feedback as to why you didn't get the grant and find out whether it's worth your time to reapply next year. Really important. And if you make any changes, I think I've mentioned this before in a previous class, if you alter your grant at all, say you're unable to use the money and you want to use it for something else, you need to get permission from them. All right. Let's see. Anybody have, actually, well, I'm going to stop the recording real quick.